Good evening, chat. How's everyone doing? For everyone who doesn't know, I am Vesper Fortune, the Bat of Fortune, intervener of fate and seller of what you need in desperate times. How's everyone going? How's everyone doing? I am glad. I had fun this weekend, my first time streaming, my debut weekend, and I'm glad to continue this, honestly. I'd like to thank everyone for being here already. We'll be having a short, cozy stream tonight where we will be reading Carmilla by... oh god, how do I say this name? Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Lee Fanu. I hope I said that right. Which is why I'm automatically in book mode. Book mode has been activated. But, before that, I will be showing off my latest achievement, which is, I have been published and read out by the Poet Heroic podcast. So we will be playing the whole episode of that before Carmilla as like a little nice intro. So, hope you enjoy some free poetry here. And I am actually the opener, and he mentions me in the middle of the, episode. But, yeah, how's everyone doing? Hope everyone's doing well. If you're lurking or just watching the VOD, I appreciate either. Hope you've had a good morning, good afternoon, good void. Whatever. Yes. It's been going good. We're gonna have a short, cozy stream tonight. Because, just a nice, small cap off to the, debut weekend. We will be reading 2 hours, well, more like an hour and 30 minutes, I guess, of Carmilla. Then we will be off to raid someone, probably. But, yeah. And no readings of Birth of the Angels tonight. I have already given enough people enough of that. You got 2 whole ass chapters. That's enough. Y'all can buy the rest of the book. But I'm doing good. I might be, another reason why this is short streams, because, I may have stuff to do with the static later. Gotta get in those Sophia clears before, I have to do Zervan. And, yeah, Zervan is gonna be more difficult than Sophia because of skip, soar, or disband. But, I wanted to have a short, cozy stream anyway since I've been asleep most of the day, and I actually had no idea what to do today. Besides reading, because I don't think I have enough people on to be playing stuff like King of the Castle and stuff. So, just a cozy stream for anyone to tune in and listen to. But, first, like I said, as a little taste, we will be listening to, the Poet Heroic podcast, where I have my episode. So, I will be, let's see here. Let me shift over to, gaming. So we can just, oh dear god. Oh, that's ugly. But, oh no, that's not what I want. But, we will be going to, the Poet Heroic. You'll be listening to, wait a second, do I have the audio output capture on? Yes, I do. You'll be listening to Luscious Lamentations, episode 38. And the description reads, if I can get the description.
Hi. My name
Let me just max this out.
is Timothy Arliss O'Brien.
I like you, Timothy, but you're causing me issues here. In episode 38, he explores Luscious Lamentations, which doesn't really explain much, but we will see. Please also do not perceive my reading of manga. And dang, I moved my background again. I am locking that background. I have to. My background can't take this anymore. 3 days in and it wants to quit. You do not see behind the curtain. You do not see behind the curtain. But I'm just gonna move this over so that we do not see behind the curtain. But we're gonna start the episode with Luscious Lamentations, episode 38.
And this is my podcast, The Poet Heroic.
Oh, wait.
Welcome to episode number 38. Today I have 6 wonderful poems for you. First, I have a poem by Vesper Fortune.
That's me.
Then, I have a poem by Rebecca Hers. I also have a poem by R.J. Equality Ingram from the 22nd issue of 1111, a journal from the Cal Arts MFA program. Then I have 2 poems by myself, one of which is from Deep Overstock, the 16th issue on superheroes. And finally, I'm closing out with a poem by Emily Dickinson. Thank you for joining me today. Now sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the poetry.
I don't know what to do with my Discord ping, so
Fire Escape
that's gonna be hard.
by Vesper Fortune.
Me.
I want to romanticize fire escapes. Not fire escapes making New York's landscapes, where Marilyn Monroe's loom in clean white party dresses and blank panties, where boys dangle their legs smoking Marlboros, making cat calls, blowing heart-shaped smoke rings. Those have enough fantasies. No. I want to romanticize escaping from fires, fleeing from that all-consuming inferno, being tossed against death's door. I want to make firemen famous as they deserve, make ambulances into Mercedes and hearses into limousines, glamorize the doctors, tilt their surgical caps to the left, their berets now, glamorize aftercare and lungs. Speak about real saviors. I want to romanticize fire escapes. I want to romanticize fire escapes.
To be 100% honest, chat, I was not expecting that to really be accepted. It was sort of just a poem, something from the vault, the trash bin. Well, not the trash bin, but I wouldn't consider it my best work, but I've been surprised before about what is accepted. And this is why you should always try and do your best, chat, to like just submit things. You never know what will be accepted, even if you don't think it's your best. Someone else will see it and be like, oh, I love this. This is amazing. But let's continue.
I'm a superstar and super high, but superhero? By Timothy Arliss O'Brien. Published in Deep Overstock, issue 16. Superheroes. Where's my hero? Nothing is worse than when there isn't a hero to rush in and fix everything. Me, cast as the damsel in distress. Scene, a tragic, distressing event where I need rescuing. The knight in shining armor, missing. Refusing to show up for work, skies full of beacons and distress symbols, missing in action and nowhere to be found. I hope I'm not being too redundant here, but I don't know how else to ask for help. Do I take out a help wanted ad in the paper? Do I write a strongly worded email to my elected officials? Maybe all the heroes have heard there is a war on and they are fighting to upkeep democracy and freedom. You know, it's so terrible. My favorite strip club moved to a new venue and there isn't a good view of the sausages from every seat in the house like there used to be. And I'm almost out of joints to smoke. I wish someone could save me. Am I the superhero? It's true. I'm supposed to save the world. But I don't know if I can. I don't even think I believe in superheroes. No one has ever been there for me when I've needed rescuing. And holy fuck have I needed to be rescued before. One time, a Tinder date went wrong, and I was too stoned to find the front door, so I had to exist in misery for almost 6 hours. Another time, a tornado was impending and bigger than I had ever seen, and guess who was right in the direct path? Me and my kitten. Then there was a time I realized I was in a cult, after I'd cut off all my family and friends, and I had no clue who to ask for help. Maybe it's time I call myself, lift the boulder off me, and on my cape, and fly me an escape, to freedom, to better waters, utopia and paradise. A one-way ticket maybe only I can give myself. Try it with me. Let's be rescuers. Let's be rescued.
Sometimes life is hard. Also, that poem might get me banned, or get the ball get the blah 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 blah, get the VOD banned. I'm not sure if needing to see the sausages from every view in the house will be allowed on Twitch. We'll see. Fun. But yeah, sometimes you just have to be your own superhero, chat. Alright, on to the next. I think this is the part where he talks about me again.
A Single Flame by Rebecca Hers. At first, it seemed the fire only burned for itself. The wax dripped to the table and formed little ponds, on which the shadow of that flame would dance, the singular spark of something inexplicable. Not important, really, but for the singular reason that it couldn't find another use for itself than to burn. The wick was there, and so was the heat. The flame came on so naturally that the object caught its purpose. So it is with all of us. We wait for fire, for something to ignite our souls. The wicks of our bodies, the wax of our love drips down to form the material of stamps for the letters we write one another. The shadows of what we mean dance upon what we say, so on, until we figure out how to say it like we mean it. To seek the flame in one another, we live to pass it on. The ferocity of the spirit that lights up the world, each of us, one by one, ignites the other, until all flames dance in unison over the still waters evermore.
That was a good poem, chat. I like that. Flames are a really nice metaphor for just about anything. And, the imagery was, really strong and stuff. I'm sorry, I'm kind of, halfway in the poems, because, I'm just trying to, manage everything. I'll probably do better next time and do something like this. Pay attention more. I'll fully admit, I'm still new to this, so, I'm trying to more focus on my OBS than what I'm doing sometimes. Alright, on to the next poem.
I want to take a moment to share some poetry wisdom.
Me.
On our submission form, we ask our poets what inspires them to write poetry. And this episode's poet, Vesper Fortune, had some very wise words. Everything inspires me, whether it be a moment in the forest, a lyric, or washing dishes. But I take a lot of my style from opening anime songs.
You could have stopped before that, but you didn't. But it's okay, because it's true, you know?
Junk mail piles up on the sofa and random words spill onto the floor. By Timothy Arliss O'Brien. Published in They, number 24. Urgent partner is needed. This is not a dating offer. We see your adequate happiness. Get remedy. We are sending you a special greeting, which we hope you will accept with a warm heart. Though I have not met with you before, I believe that one has to risk confiding in someone to succeed in life endeavors. Will you be an heir to an estate? Do you matter to anyone? Is your life important? Are you real? You can contact us. You might be successful. Please respond. We can help you conquer life. Never forget your meds again. Don't drown in all the confusion your partner puts you through. Life is rough, but a timeshare in Italy is a great escape. Thank you for your participation. Enjoy the fight of life.
That was really good. Definitely a panic poem. Very much a quick little miniature existential crisis. Bite-sized existential crisis. That feeling of, do you matter, in a poem, but urgent and about as subtle as a cartoon anvil. But, sometimes you don't want salty, sometimes you want the cartoon anvil just dropped, you know? And, you can definitely feel that here, 18-wheeler semi-truck of life about to plow you in the chest, and you can't do anything. But, yeah, that was good. I like that one, actually. I think that's one of my favorite ones here so far. But I like them all, really. On to the next.
Baryshnikov by R.J. Equality Ingram. Published in issue 22 of 1111, a journal from the Cal Arts MFA program. Baryshnikov. I regret that I am not a cactus, deep inside of a man's pocket, trying to turn sound and science into something you want to touch but can't. I regret that my love has not buried me in the desert, in some canyon the fuck away from everything I can name. I want him to bury me in the red dirt in a canyon the fuck away from everything I can name, but I don't want him to leave me there alone. I regret that I am not two golden eagles as they circle each other above us, me and him. We are naked in the desert and he kisses me but doesn't touch me because he knows I want to be a cactus. Eagles are the rarest birds in my poetry because they don't exist. I regret that eagles don't exist. When I was my mother, I saw that goddamn American bird pick up a snake and put it in its fat sack to kill after the war. But these eagles exist and have two planets for eyes. They tell us they're real, and we believe them. Because you're young and in love and are trying our hardest not to die first. In their minds, they are not eagles, but instead one is a poet and the other a dancer. The poet and dancer look down at us and can't believe everything on this rock that presses itself together so well can spend so much time not in love. I regret that I am not a cactus that tries to keep close everything it touches. I regret that I am not alone in a cornfield spinning to music only I can hear. I regret that I am not a verb, like to spin or to stitch or to leave. For the first time in history, I regret that I cannot live faster. And that's the luck of it, isn't it? To be seduced by marble columns and the bridge of a man's nose and want absolutely nothing but to press your own nose against his. I regret that I cannot live faster, and that's the luck of it. Getting ready to leave for the night, watching him gently embrace the sofa and wanting to touch the same spot his fingers touched just moments before pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose. You're a 23-year-old fuck-up. The archetype of a man in a bar tells me, and your boyfriend is not going to marry you. He's right, of course. The oracles have been saying the same for years. You aren't going to marry the man lying next to you. He'll be a new man, and I regret that I'll be a new man for my boyfriend to marry. I regret that I will not marry my boyfriend. I'll go out with myself to the drawers of some city the fuck away from everything I can name. I regret that I am not a canyon as it folds back into itself with the sun. I am distracted, though, because for the first time I have felt the regret that comes when you know you have almost ruined someone's life. And you know you have almost ruined someone's life. When you ask them to pass the salt and they start to weep uncontrollably. And that's the luck of it, isn't it? When the sparrows, who are more real than eagles, refuse to fly over your head, I regret that I do not have my love's head pressed against my own. That we spend so much time not in love. Yes, that's how you know you have almost ruined someone's life. When you see in their eyes the desire to push you from the overpass because you almost killed their 8-year-old son. And that's the luck of it, isn't it? Because this is why we have insurance, because accidents happen, because in a way the boy even looked like Baryshnikov. I regret that I will not be the man my boyfriend marries. I regret that I am not a poem to recite to yourself while walking alone to your car at night. I regret that I am not a song to dance to on a park bench in the rain. But of all the things I am not, the one I most regret not being is a cactus. Yes, a cactus. Something you want to touch but can't. Something that tries so hard to continue to touch everything it can touch. A cactus only hurts what wants to be hurt. And when you find me rolling under your seat, as you dig for your keys in your purse, as you pull your phone out of your pocket, as you pull into another lane on the freeway, know that I am not a cactus, and I'm sorry. But I may still hurt you, whether you want me to or not.
That was a lot. Still enjoyable though. I think maybe the kid with the 8-year-old kid was a bit much. The I feel like it's like a run-on thought, like anxiety, like how anxiety works is just like a hamster wheel of thoughts that just keep you running and running and running through your head. And this poem really gives me that feel that you're just thinking about yourself and like who you could have been, not who you are or who you could be. Maybe you in the future as well. As like we on ourselves in the future, we are a different version. We are reincarnated, reborn. The person you are tomorrow is not who you are today. The day after that will not be the same as yesterday. And that's probably for the best. You are who you are until the next day. But that was really enjoyable. Like I said, it's a run-on thought, like anxiety. And I think this is the last poem, so let's continue.
I want to take a moment to inspire you, our listeners, to try some poetry, because anyone can be a poet. This episode, our writing prompt is a place that haunts you. So pick up a pen and piece of paper or your iPhone and take me to a place that haunts you. We Never Know How High We Are by Emily Dickinson. We never know how high we are till we are called to rise. And then, if we are true to plan, our statures touch the skies. The heroism we recite would be a daily thing, did not ourselves the cubits warp for fear to be a king. Thank you for joining me in this episode. More information about all the poets are in the show notes. There are also links to more of their writing. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review, sharing this podcast with a friend, and subscribing so you never miss a poem. And remember, anyone can be a poet.
Alright, that was nice. A nice thing to enjoy while we as like a quick little like order before we listen to Carmilla. Let me just go ahead and add in a sound. thank you, whatever. I'm very excited. Like, that made me very happy just to have, like, appear in my Twitter inbox. You know, though I should have probably looked at my email first. I need to check my emails more often. But, yeah, I'm very happy about that. That means I will now more easily be able to publish more poetry. Because now I have experience. So, yeah. Okay, let me get out the music. Because we have music. Oh, let me mute the VLC because don't think it's gonna match the mood. There we go. But let me pause this. Let me actually go get some water. I will be right back. Let's just mute that, just in case. Okay. Okay, and now we will... I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Okay. Now we will... Okay, I think I have the audio mixed well. I'm going to turn it up just a little. No, wait, I think I'll turn it down because this thing's a little bit louder than me. Okay, we got the dark academia music going on, which Carmilla does not apply to, but it still has vampiric feels, so... Alright, now we will read Carmilla by, Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. Okay, let's go. Prologue. Upon a paper attached to the narrative which follows, Dr. Hesselius has written a rather elaborate note, which he accompanies with a reference to his essay on the strange subject which the MS illuminates. This mysterious subject he treats in that essay, with his usual learning and acumen, and with remarkable directness and condensation. It will form but one volume of the series of that extraordinary man's collected papers. As I publish this case in this volume simply to interest the laity, I shall forestall the intelligent lady who relates it in nothing, and after due consideration, I have determined therefore to abstain from presenting any précis of the learned doctor's reasoning, or extract from his statement on a subject which he describes as involving, not improbably, some of the profoundest arcana of our dual existence and its intermediates. I was anxious on discovering this paper to reopen the correspondence commenced by Dr. Hecelius so many years before. With a person so clever and careful as his informant seems to have been. Much to my regret, however, I found that she had died in the interval. She probably could have added little to the narrative, which she communicates in the following pages, so far as I can pronounce, with conscientious particularity. So, the main character will be a female, and Carmilla is very known for its, homoeroticism between females, so, that's why I chose it. The actual original book I chose for tonight was supposed to be Manor, but, I didn't realize my copy was still in German, so we will be reading Carmilla and its lesbian themes and vampirism tonight. And I will turn down this music just a little bit more because I'm not sure if I can be heard over it. There we go. There we go. I think this is good. Okay. Chapter 1. An Early Fright. I'll just link it, because I'm just listening to it on YouTube. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. There we go. I'm not sure if it's royalty free, but I'm currently not making any money from subs or anything, so I think it's fine. So, on to chapter 1, an early fright. In Styria, we, though by no means magnificent people, inhabit a castle, or schloss. A small income in that part of the world goes a great way. 800 or 900 a year does wonders. Scantily enough, ours would have answered among the wealthy people at home. My father is English, and I bear an English name, although I never saw England, but here, in this lonely and primitive place, where everything is so marvelously cheap, I don't see how ever much more money would at all materially add to our comforts, or even luxuries. My father was in the Austrian service, and retired upon a pension in his patrimony, and purchased this feudal residence, and the small estate on which it stands. A bargain. Nothing can be more picturesque or solitary. It stands on a slight eminence in a forest. The road, very old and narrow, passes in front of its drawbridge, never raised in my time, and its moat stocked with perch and sailed over by many swans, and floating on its surface, white fleets of water lilies. Over all this, the schloss shows its many-windowed front, its towers, and its Gothic chapel. The forest opens in an irregular and very picturesque glade before its gate. And at the right, a steep Gothic bridge carries the road over a stream that winds in a deep shadow through the wood. I have said that this is a very lonely place. Judge whether I say the truth. Looking from the hall door towards the road, the forest in which our castle stands, it seems... I can read, I promise. I'm literate. Looking from the hall door towards the road, the forest in which our castle stands extends 15 miles to the right, and 12 to the left. The nearest inhabited village is about 7 of your English miles to the left. The nearest inhabited schloss of any historic associations is that of Old General Spielsdorf, nearly 20 miles away to the right. I have said the nearest inhabited village because only 3 miles westward, that is to say in the direction of General Spieldorf Schloss, a ruined village with its quaint church now roofless, in the aisle of which there are moldering tombs of the proud family of Kornstein, now extinct, who once owned the equally desolate chateau, which, in the thick of the forest, overlooks the silent ruins of the town. Dang, this is a really nice place. I want to live there. I don't... I want to be in the middle of nowhere, but with Wi-Fi. That's the real life right there. But back to the book. Respecting the cause of the desertion of this striking and melancholy spot, there is a legend which I shall relate to you another time. I must tell you now how very small is the party who constitute the inhabitants of our castle. I don't include servants or those dependents who occupy rooms in the buildings attached to the slosh. Listen and wonder. My father, who is the kindest man on earth but growing old, and I, at the date of my story, only 19. 8 years have passed since then. I and my father constituted the family at the Schloss. My mother, a Styrian lady, died in my infancy. But I had a good-natured governess, who had been with me from, I might almost say, my infancy. I cannot remember the time when her fat, benignant face was not a familiar picture in my memory. This was Madame Perrodon, a native of Bern, whose care and good nature now in part supplied to me the loss of my mother, whom I don't even remember, so early I lost her. She made a third at our little dinner party. There was a fourth, Mademoiselle de La Fontaine, a lady such as you term, I believe, a finishing governess. She spoke French and German, Madame Perrodon French and broken English, to which my father and I added English, which, partly to prevent its becoming a lost language among us, and partly from patriotic motives, we spoke every day. The consequence was a battle, at which strangers used to laugh, and in which I shall make no attempt to reproduce in this narrative, and there were 2 or 3 young lady friends besides, pretty nearly of my own age, who were occasional visitors, for longer or shorter terms, and these visits I sometimes returned. These were our regular social resources, but of course there were chance visits from neighbors of only 5 or 6 leagues distance. My life was, notwithstanding, rather a solitary one, I can assure you. My governance has much control over me, as you might conjecture such sage persons would have. In the case of a rather spoiled girl, whose only parent allowed her pretty nearly her own way in everything. So, we got a spoiled rich girl living in a castle in the middle of a forest. I like where the story is heading already. The first occurrence in my existence which produced a terrible impression upon my mind, which in fact never had been effaced, was one of the very earliest incidents of my life which I can recollect. Some people think it's so trifling it should be not recorded here. You'll see, however, by and by, why I mention it. The nursery, as it was called, though I had it all to myself, was a large room in the upper story of the castle, with a steep oak roof. I can't have been more than 6 years old when one night I awoke, and looking around the room from my bed, failed to see the nursery maid. Neither was my nurse there, and I thought myself alone. I was not frightened, for I was one of those happy children who are studiously kept in ignorance of ghost stories, of fairy tales, and of all such lore that as makes us cover up our heads when the door cracks suddenly, or the flicker of an expiring candle makes the shadow of a bedpost dance upon the wall, nearer to our faces. I was vexed and insulted at finding myself, as I conceived, neglected. I began to whimper, preparatory to a hearty bout of roaring, when to my surprise I saw a solemn but very pretty face looking at me from the side of the bed. It was that of a young lady who was kneeling with her hands under the coverlet. I looked at her with a kind and pleased of wonder, and ceased whimpering. She caressed me with her hands, and lay down beside me on the bed, and drew me towards her, smiling. I felt immediately delightfully soothed, and fell asleep again. I was wakened by a sensation as if 2 needles ran into my breast, very deep at the same moment, and I cried loudly. The lady started back, her eyes fixed on me, and slipped down upon the floor, and as I thought, hid herself under the bed. Oh, I see where this is heading. This might be a little troublesome here if we start out at 6, but hopefully this doesn't turn out to be that bad. I was now, for the first time frightened. I yelled with all my might and main. Nurse, nursery maid, housekeeper all came running in, and hearing my story, they made light of it, soothing me all they could meanwhile. But, child as I was, I could perceive that their faces were pale with an unwonted look of anxiety, and I saw them look into the bed and about the room, and peep under tables and pluck open cupboards, and the housekeeper whispered to the tomb, "Lay your hand along the hollow in the bed. Someone did lie there. So sure as you did not, the place is still warm." I remember the nursery maid petting me, and all 3 examining my chest where I told them I felt the puncture, and pronouncing that there was no sign visible that any such thing happened to me. The housekeeper and the other 2 servants who were in charge of the nursery remained sitting up all night, and from that time, a servant always sat in the nursery until I was about 14. I was very nervous for a long time after this. A doctor was called in. He was pallid and elderly. How well I remember his long, saturnine face, slightly pitted with smallpox and recreation. Okay. How well I remember his long, saturnine face, slightly pitted with smallpox, and his chestnut wig. For a good while, every second day, he came and gave me medicine, which of course I hated. The morning after I saw this apparition, I was in a state of terror, and could not bear to be left alone, daylight though it was for a moment. I remember my father coming up and standing at the bedside, talking cheerfully, and asking the nurse a number of questions, and laughing very heartily, at one of the answers, and patting me on the shoulder and kissing me, and telling me not to be frightened, that it was nothing but a dream, and could not hurt me. But I was not comforted, for I knew the visit of the strange woman was not a dream, and I was awfully frightened. I was a little consoled by the nursery maids assuring me that it was she who come and looked at me, and laid down beside me in bed, and that I must have been half dreaming to not know her face. But this, though supported by the nurse, did not quite satisfy me. I remembered, in the course of that day, a venerable old man in a black cassock coming into the room with the nurse and housekeeper, and talking a little to them and very kindly to me. His face was very sweet and gentle, and he told me that they were going to pray and join my hands together, and desired me to say softly while they were praying, "Lord, hear all good prayers for us, for Jesus' sake." I think these were the very words, for I often repeated them to myself. And my nurse used them for years to make me say them in my prayers. I remembered so well the thoughtful, sweet face of that white old man, and his black cassock, as he stood in that rude, lofty, brown room, with the clumsy furniture of a fashion 300 years old about him, and the scanty light entering its shadowy atmosphere through the small lattice. He kneeled, and the three women with him, and the three women with him, and he prayed aloud with an earnest, quavering voice for what appeared to me for a long time. I forget all my life preceding that event, and for some time after it is all obscure also, but the scenes I've just described stand out vivid as the isolated pictures of a phantasmagoria surrounded by darkness. So, we know that this started early, that the woman came and visited her when she was 6. So, this was an early plot. This is grooming! But, I actually like this. The descriptions are nice. I'm gonna be stealing some of these words for later. But, on to Chapter 2. Chapter 2, A Guest. I am now going to tell you something so strange that will require faith in all my veracity to believe my story is not only true, nevertheless, but the truth of which I have been an eyewitness. It was the sweet summer evening, and my father asked me, as he sometimes did, to take a little ramble with him along the beautiful forest vista, which I have mentioned as lying in front of the Schloss. General Spielsdorf cannot come with us so soon as I had hoped, said my father as we continued to talk. I need a sip. He was said to have paid us a visit of some weeks, and we had expected his arrival the next day. He was to brought with him a young lady, his niece and ward, Mademoiselle Reinfeldt, whom I had never seen, but whom I had heard described as a very charming girl, and in whose society I promised myself many happy days. As more disappointed than a young lady living in town, or a bustling neighbor could possibly imagine. This visit and the new acquaintance it promised have furnished my daydream for many weeks. And how soon does he come? I asked. Not till autumn, not for 2 months, I dare say, he answered. And I'm very glad now, dear, that you never knew Mademoiselle Reinfeldt. And why? I asked, both mortified and curious. Because the poor young lady is dead, he replied. I quite forgot I had not told you, but you were not in the room when I received the General's letter this evening. I was very much shocked. General Spielsdorf had mentioned in his first letter, 6 or 7 weeks before, that she was not so well as he would wish her, but there was nothing to suggest the remotest suspicion of danger. Here is the General's letter, he said, handing it to me. I'm afraid he is in great affliction. The letter appears to me to have been written very nearly in distraction. Okay, so we also got a play. That's lovely. Just what we were needing. Illnesses. You can't escape it. Not even in lesbian vampire novels. But, okay, here we go. We sat on a rude bench under a group of magnificent lime trees. The sun was setting with all its melancholy splendor towards the sylvan horizon. The stream that flows beside our home and passes under the steep old bridge I have mentioned wound through many a group of noble trees, almost at our feet, reflecting its current in the fading crimson of the sky. General Spielsdorf's letter was so extraordinary, so vehement, and in some places so self-contradictory, that I read it twice over, the second time aloud to my father, and was still unable to account for it, except by supposing that grief had unsettled his mind. It is said that I have lost my darling. It's said. I will learn how to read this. I will learn how to read. It's said I have lost my darling daughter, for as much as I loved her. During the last days of dear Bertha's illness, I was not able to write to you. Before then, I had no idea of her danger. I have lost her, and I'll learn all too late. She died in peace of innocence, and in the glorious hope of blessed futurity. The fiend who betrayed our infatuated hospitality has done it all. I thought I was receiving to my house innocence, gaiety, a charming companion for my lost Bertha. Heavens, what a fool I have been! I thank God my child died without suspicion of the cause of her sufferings. She is gone without so much as the conjecturing nature of her illness. In the accursed passion of the agent of all this misery, I devote my remaining days to tracking and extinguishing a monster. I am told I may hope to accomplish my righteous and merciful purpose. At present, there is scarcely a gleam of light to guide me. I curse my conceited incredulity, my despicable affection of superiority, my blindness, my obstinacy, all too late. I cannot write or talk collectedly now. I am distracted. So soon I shall have a so soon as I shall have a little covered, I mean to devote myself for a time to inquiry, which may possibly lead me as far as Vienna. Sometime in the autumn, 2 months hence, or earlier if I live, I will see you. That is, if you permit me. I will then tell you all that I have scarce dare put upon paper now. Farewell. Pray for me, dear friend. So, we know something has happened, and it's related to the friend of Bertha Reinfeldt, also known as Mademoiselle Reinfeldt. So, we know that young ladies near courting age are the preferred targets of this vampire. Well, not a vampire. We don't know it's a vampire yet, but as I introduced, Carmilla actually came before Dracula, if you could believe it. Oh, hold on, I think I got a knock at the door. Hold on. Okay, that was just me mistaking it for something. But yes, Carmilla came before Dracula, but yesified. But Carmilla and a little-known German, I think it's German, a little-known German story known as Manor, which I originally intended to read, but I need to find a English translated copy, came before Dracula, actually, and was the, I believe, the predecessors to the vampires. But Dracula is kind of like the what made it popular. It's not the first, it just made it popular. And of course, before even those were probably like many mythos and folklores about vampire-adjacent creatures. So, Dracula is definitely not the first, and I will not say Manor or Carmilla are probably the first vampires either. But, an interesting thing about both Carmilla and Manor is that they feature more same-sex relationships than Dracula, which is... Dracula is very heavy-handed on the homosexuality as well. But, like, these were more, out and out than subtext of Dracula. Alright, let's continue on. In these terms ended this strange letter. Though I had never seen Bertha Reinfeldt, my eyes full of tears at the sudden intelligence. I was startled as well as profoundly disappointed. The sun had now set, and it was twilight by the time I returned the general's letter to my father. It was a soft, clear evening. We loitered, speculating upon the possible meanings of the violent and incoherent sentences which I had just been reading. We had nearly a mile to walk before reaching the end of the road that passes the Schloss in front. And by that time, the moon was shining brilliantly. At the drawbridge, we met Madame Perrodon and Mademoiselle de L'Enfontaine, who come out without the bonnets to enjoy the exquisite moonlight. We heard their voices gabbling in animated dialogue. As we approached, we joined them at the drawbridge, and we turned to admire with them the beautiful scene. The glade through which we had just walked lay before us. At our left, the narrow road wound. At our left, the narrow road wound away under clumps of lordly trees, and lost to sight amid the thickening forest. At the right, the same road crosses the steep and picturesque bridge, near which stands a ruined tower which once guarded that pass. Beyond the bridge, an abrupt eminence arises, covered with trees and showing in the shadows some grey, ivy-clustered walks. Over the sward and low grounds, a thin film of mist was stealing like smoke, marking the distances with a transparent veil. Here and there, we could see the river faintly flashing in the moonlight. No softer, sweeter scene could it be imagined. News I had heard made it melancholy, but nothing could disturb its character profound serenity, and the enchanted glory and vagueness of the prospect. My father, who enjoyed the picturesque, and I, stood looking in silence over the expanse beneath us. The two good governesses, standing a little way behind us, discoursed upon the scene, and were eloquent upon the moon. Madame Perrodon was fat, middle-aged, and romantic, and talked and sighed poetically. Mademoiselle de L'Enfontaine, in right of her father, who was a German, assumed to be psychological, metaphysical, and something of a mystic, now declared that when the moon shone with a light so intense, it was well known that it indicated a special spiritual activity. The effect of the full moon in such a state of brilliancy was manifold. It acted on dreams, it acted on lunacy, it acted on nervous people. It had marvelous physical influences connected with life. Mademoiselle related that her cousin, who was mate of a merchant ship, having taken a nap on deck on such a night, lying on his back with his face full in the light of the moon, had wakened after a dream of an old woman clawing him by the cheek, with his features horribly drawn to one side. His countenance had never quite recovered its equilibrium. "The moon, this night," she said, "is full of idyllic and magnetic influence. And see, when you look behind you at the front of the Schloss, how all its windows flash and twinkle with that silvery splendor, as if unseen hands had lighted up the room to receive fairy guests. There are indolent styles of spirits in which, indisposed to talk ourselves, talk of others is pleasant to our listless ears." And I gazed on, pleased with the tinkle of the lady's conversation. I have got into one of my moping moods tonight," said my father, after a silence, and quoting Shakespeare, by which of keeping up our English he used to be allowed. He said, "In truth, I know not why I am so sad. It wearies me. You say it wearies you, but how I came by it. I forget the rest, but I feel as if some great misfortune were hanging over us. I suppose the poor general's afflicted letter had something to do with it." At this moment, the unwonted sound of carriage wheels and many hoofs upon the road arrested our attention. They seemed to be approaching from the high ground, overlooking the ridge, and very soon the equipage emerged from that point. The 2 horsemen first crossed the bridge, and then came a carriage drawn by 4 horses. 2 men rode behind. It seemed to be the traveling carriage of a person of rank, and we were all immediately absorbed in watching that very unusual spectacle. It became, in a few moments, greatly more interesting, for just as the carriage had passed the summit of the steep bridge, one of the leaders, taking fright, communicated his panic to the rest, and after a plunge or 2, the whole team broke into a wild gallop together, and dashing between the horsemen who rode in front came thundering along the road towards us with the great speed of a hurricane. The excitement of the scene was made more painful by the clear, long-drawn screams of a female voice from the carriage window. We all advanced in curiosity and horror, me rather in silence, the rest with various ejaculations of terror. Oh, how that word has aged horribly. Yeah, you just don't say. Some words change way too much sometimes, you know? You just can't say them normally. Ejaculations is one of them. Sip. Gotta take a sip. Our suspense did not last long. Just before you reach the castle drawbridge on the route they were going, there stands by the roadside a magnificent lime tree. On the other stands an ancient stone cross, at the site which the horse is now going at a pace that is perfectly frightful. Swerved so as to bring the wheel over the projecting roots of the tree. I knew it was coming. I closed my eyes, unable to see it out, and turned my head away. At the same moment, I heard a cry from my lady friends, who had gone on a little. Curiosity opened my eyes, and I saw a scene of utter confusion. 2 of the horses were on the ground. The carriage lay upon its side with 2 wheels in the air. The men were busy removing the traces. And the lady with a commanding air and figure had got out, and stood with clasped hands, raising the handkerchief that was in them, every now and then to her eyes. Through the carriage door was now lifted a young lady, who appeared to be lifeless. My dear old father was already beside the elder lady, with his hat in hand, evidently tendering his aid and the resources of his Schloss. The lady did not appear to hear him, or have eyes for anything but the slender girl who was placed against the slope of the bank. bank. I approached. The young lady was apparently stunned, but was certainly not dead. My father, who piqued himself on being something of a physician, had just had his fingers on her wrist and assured the lady, who declared herself her mother, that her pulse, though faint and irregular, was undoubtedly still distinguishable. The lady clasped her hands and looked forward, as if in a momentary transport of gratitude. But immediately she broke out again in that theatrical way which I believe natural to some people. She was what is called a fine-looking woman for her time of life, and must have been handsome. She was tall, but not thin, dressed in black velvet, and looked rather pale, but with a proud and commanding countenance, though now agitated strangely. Who was ever being so bored on calamity? I heard her say, with clasped hands as I came up. Here am I, on a journey of life and death, in prosecuting which to lose in an hour is to possibly lose all. My child will not have recovered sufficiently. My child will not have recovered sufficiently to resume her route, for who can say how long I must leave her? I cannot, dare not delay. How far on, sir, can you tell is the nearest village? I must leave her there. I shall not see my darling, or even hear of her until my return, 3 months hence. I plucked my father by the coat and whispered earnestly in her ear, "Oh, Papa, pray ask her to let her stay with us. It would be so delightful. Do pray." If Madame will entrust her child to the care of my daughter, and of her good gouvernante, Madame Perrodon, and permit her remain as our guest, under my charge until her return, it will confer a distinction and an obligation upon us, and we shall treat her with all the care and devotion which so sacred a trust deserves. So this is basically a favor. This is like a dual favor. Like, the father is doing this to garner, like, a favor from the woman, but also he's sort of paying his daughter something, which is really enjoyable. Like he is getting 2 bonuses out of this. He's getting 2 pros, which is actually a really smart move, even though we know this won't end smartly, I think. I cannot do that, sir. It would be to task your kindness and chivalry too cruelly, said the lady, distractedly. It would, on the contrary, be a comfort on us, very great kindness at the moment when we need it. My daughter has just been disappointed by a cruel misfortune, a visit from which she had long anticipated a great deal of happiness. If you confide this young lady to our care, it will be her best consolation. The nearest village on your route is distant, and affords no such inn as you could think of placing your daughter at. You cannot allow her to continue her journey for any considerable distance without danger. If, as you say, you cannot suspend your journey, you must part with her tonight. And nowhere could you do with the more honest assurances of care and tenderness than here. There was something in this lady's air and appearance, so distinguished and even imposing, in her manner so engaging as to impress one, quite apart from the dignity of her equipage, with the conviction that she was a person of consequence. By this time the carriage was replaced in its upright position, and the horses quite tractable, and the traces again. The lady threw on her daughter a glance which, I fancied, was not quite so affectionate as the one might have been anticipated from the beginning of the scene. Then she beckoned slightly to my father, and withdrew two or three steps with him out of hearing, and talked to her with a fixed and stern countenance, not at all like that with which she had hitherto spoken. I was filled with wonder that my father did not seem to perceive the change, and so unspeakably curious to learn, whereas that she could be speaking almost in his ear with so much earnestness and rapidity. 2 or 3 minutes at most, I think she remained thus employed, and then she turned, and a few steps brought her to where her daughter lay, supported by Madame Perrodon. She kneeled beside her for a moment and whispered, as Madame supposed, a little benediction in her ear. And hastily kissing her, she stepped into her carriage. The door was closed. The footman in stately liveries jumped up behind. The outrider spurred on. The postilions cracked their whips. The horses plunged and broke suddenly into a furious canter that threatened to soon again become a gallop, and the carriage whirled away, followed by at the same rapid pace by 2 horsemen in the rear. So, we have this girl who was left behind by her mother at at our little chateau, at our little castle. So, is the girl the vampire, or is her mother? What is the mother so needing to do that she needed to abandon her daughter? Why even bring her daughter in the first place if she is a woman of such means, you know? Makes you wonder. Chapter 3. We compare notes. This may be the last chapter for the night, because I just wanted a short, cozy stream, and I'm really enjoying this. I hope you guys are too. But we're on to the 3rd chapter for the night. I hope y'all enjoyed. Chapter 3. We compare notes. We followed the cortege with our eyes until it was swiftly lost to sight in the misty wood. The very second... In the very sound of hooves and the wheels died away in the silent night air. Nothing remained to assure us that the adventure had not been an illusion of a moment, but the young lady who just at that moment opened her eyes. I could not see, for her face was turned from me, but she raised her head, evidently looking about her, and her very sweet voice asked complainingly, "Where is Mama?" A good Madame Perrodon answered tenderly, and added some comfortable assurances. Then I heard her ask, "Where am I? What is this place?" And after that she asked, "I don't see the carriage. I don't see Matsuka. Where is she?" Madame answered all her questions in so far as she understood them, and gradually the young lady remembered how the misadventure came about. I was glad to hear that no one, in or unintended saw the carriage was her, and learning that her mother had left her here till her return in about 3 months, she wept. I was about to add my consolation to those of Madame Perrodon when Mademoiselle de Lafontaine placed her hand upon my arm, saying, "Don't approach. One at a time is as much as she can present converse with. A very little excitement could overpower her now." As soon as she is comfortably in bed, I thought, I will run up to her room and see her. My father, in the meantime, had sent a servant on horseback for the physician, who lived about 2 leagues away, and a bedroom was being prepared for the young lady's reception. The stranger now arose, leaning on Madame's arm, walking slowly over the drawbridge and into the castle gate. In the hall, servants waited to receive her, and she was conducted forthwith to her room. The room we usually sat in our drawing room is long, having 4 windows. that looked over the moat and the drawbridge upon the forest scene I have just described. It is furnished with an old carved oak with large carved cabinets. The chair is a cushion with crimson outstretched velvet. The walls are covered in tapestry and surrounded with great gold frames, the figures being as large as life, in ancient and very curious costume, and the subjects represented are hunting, hockey, and generally festive. It is not too stately to be extremely comfortable, and here we have our tea, for with his usual patriotic leanings, he insisted that the national beverage make its appearance regularly with our coffee and chocolate. We sat here this night, and with candles lighted, we were talking over the adventure of the evening. Madame Perrodon and Mademoiselle de L'Enfontaine were both of our party. The young stranger had hardly lain down in her bed when she sank into a deep sleep, and as those ladies had left her in the care of a servant. Remember, please do not let concussion victims fall asleep, for you need them to be awake for at least 8 hours, and preferably 24, to see if they are experiencing concussion symptoms. This lady might have a concussion. How do you like our guest? I asked as soon as Madame entered. Tell me all about her. I like her extremely. Oh wait, did I miss over a paragraph? How do you like our guest? I asked as soon as Madame entered. Tell me all about her. I like her extremely, answered Madame. She is, I almost think, the prettiest creature I ever saw, about your age, so gentle and nice. She is absolutely beautiful, threw in Mademoiselle, who had peeped for a moment into the stranger's room. And such a sweet voice, added Madame Perrodon. Did you remark a woman in the carriage, after it was set up again, who did not get out? Inquired Mademoiselle, but only looked from the window. No, we had not seen her. Then she described a hideous black woman. Oh boy. This was written a long time ago, so we're just gonna look over that. This was written a long time ago in Europe, I may add. So there's shit here. We just gotta ignore the little bits of racism. The very not tasty traits of racism. Then she described a hideous black woman with a sort of colored turban on her head, who was gazing all the time from the carriage window, nodding and grinning derisively towards the ladies, with gleaming eyes and large white eyeballs, and her teeth set as if in a fury. Did you remark what an ill-looking pack of men the servants were? Asked Madame. Yes, said my father, who had just come in. Ugly, hangdog fellow-looking fellows, as I have ever beheld in my life. I hope they mayn't rob the poor lady in the forest. They are clever rogues, however, they got everything to rights in a minute. I dare say they are worn out. They are worn out with too long traveling, said Madame. Besides looking wicked, their faces are so strangely lean and dark and sullen. I'm very curious, I own, but I dare say the young lady will tell you all about it tomorrow, if she is sufficiently recovered. I don't think she will, said my father, with a mysterious smile and a little nod of his head, as if he knew more about it than he cared to tell us. Sips. This made us all the more inquisitive as to what had passed between him and the lady in black velvet. The brief, earnest interview that immediately preceded her departure. We were scarcely alone when I entreated him to tell me he did not need much pressing. Drinks water dramatically. It fits the story. Sip. But I'm enjoying the story. We got some intrigue going on. We got some fashion. Could do without the racism, but what story could not do without racism? A little racism as a not trait. Sometimes you just have the shit on the dinner table you don't like, and sometimes you have to eat it because it's there. We were scarcely alone when I entreated him to tell me he did not need much pressing. There was no particular reason why I should not tell you. She expressed reluctance to trouble us with the care of her daughter, saying she was in delicate health and nervous, but not subject to any kind of seizure. She volunteered that, nor to any illusion, being in fact perfectly sane. How very odd to say all that, I interpolated. So unnecessary. At all events, it was said, he laughed. As you wish to know all that passed. It was indeed very little, I tell you, she said then. I am making a long journey of vital importance. She emphasized the word, rapid and in secret. I shall return for my child in 3 months. In the meantime, she will be silent as to who we are, whence we come, and whither we are traveling. That is all she said. She spoke very pure French. When she said the word secret, she paused for a few seconds, looking sternly. Her eyes fixed on mine. I fancy she makes a great point of that. You saw how quickly she was gone. I hope I have not done a foolish thing in taking the charge of a young lady. For my part, I was delighted. I was looking to see and talk to her, and only waiting till a doctor should give me leave. You who live in towns can have no idea how great an event the introduction of a new friend is, such a solitude as surrounded us. So I'm not doing European accents for this, because I don't have training in that. So I'm just doing a regular, voice differentiations when I can. Which some of them don't really fit, but I'm trying. The doctor did not arrive until nearly 1 o'clock, but I could no more have gone to my bed and slept than I could have overtaken on foot the carriage in which the princess in black velvet had driven away. When the physician came down to the drawing room, it was to report very favorably on his patient. She was now sitting up, her pulse quite regular, apparently perfectly well. She had sustained no injury, and a little shock to her nerves had passed away quite harmlessly. There could be no harm, certainly, in my seeing her, if we both wished it. With his permission, I sent forthwith to know whether she would allow me to visit her for a few moments in her room. The servant returned immediately to say that she desired nothing more. You may be sure I was not long in availing myself of this permission. Our visitor lay in one of the handsomest rooms in the Schloss. It was perhaps a little stately. There was a somber piece of tapestry opposite of the foot of the bed, representing Cleopatra with the asps to her bosom. Other solemn classic scenes were displayed, a little faded upon the other walls. There was gold carving and rich and very color enough in other decorations of the room to more than redeem the gloom of the old tapestry. There were candles at the bedside. She was sitting up, her slender, pretty figure enveloped in a soft silk dressing gown, embroidered with flowers, and lined with thick quilted silk, which her mother had thrown over her feet as she lay upon the ground. What was it that, as I reached the bedside and had just begun my little greeting, struck me dumb in a moment and made me recoil a step or two from before her? I will tell you. I saw the very face which had visited me in my childhood that night, which remained so fixed in my memory, and on which I had for so many years so often ruminated with horror, when no one suspected of what I was thinking. It was very pretty, even beautiful, when I first beheld it, wore the same melancholy expression. But this almost instantly lighted into a strange, fixed smile of recognition. There was a silence of fully a minute, and then at length she spoke. I could not. "How wonderful!" she exclaimed. "12 years ago, I saw your face in a dream, and it has haunted me ever since." "Wonderful indeed," I repeated, overcoming with an effort the horror that had for some time suspended my utterances. 12 years ago, in vision or reality, I certainly saw you. I could not forget your face. It has remained clear before my eyes ever since. Okay, so we have met the vampire. This isn't as bad as I thought it was, because it could have been that the vampire became an adult when she was still a teenager. I mean, this is still sort of wrong, but we're making it through. Her smile had softened. Whatever I had fancied strange in it was gone. And her dimpling cheeks were now delightfully pretty and intelligent. I felt reassured and continued, more in the vein which hospitality indicated, to bid her welcome, and to tell her how much pleasure her accidental arrival had given us all, especially what happiness it was to me. I took her hand as I spoke. I was a little shy, as lonely people are, but the situation made me eloquent and even bold. She pressed my hand, laid hers upon it, and her eyes glowed. Looking hastily into mine, she smiled again and blushed. She answered my welcome very prettily. I sat down beside her, still wondering, and she said, "I must tell you my vision about you is so very strange, and I should have had each of the others so vivid a dream, that each should have seen I, you, and you, me, looking as we do now, and of course we both were mere children. I was a child about 6 years old, and I woke from a confused and troubled dream. I found myself in a room, unlike my nursery, wainscoted clumsily in some dark red, with cupboards and bedsteads, and chairs and benches placed about it. The beds were, I thought, all empty, and the room itself without anyone but myself in it, and I, looking about me for some time, admiring especially with an iron candlestick with 2 branches, which I should certainly know again, crept under one of the beds to reach the window. But as I got from under the bed, I heard someone crying and looking up, and while I was still upon my knees, I saw you, most assuredly you, as I see you now, a beautiful young lady, with golden hair and large blue eyes and lips. Your lips. You, as you are here. Your looks won me. I climbed on the bed, and put my arms about you, and I think we both fell asleep. I was aroused by a scream. You were sitting up and screaming. I was frightened and slipped down upon the ground. It seemed to me lost consciousness for a moment. And when I came to myself, I was again in my nursery at home, Your face I have not forgotten since. I could not have been misled by mere resemblance. You are the lady whom I saw then. It was now my turn to relate my corresponding vision, which I did, to the undisguised wonder of my new acquaintance. I don't know which should be. I do not know. I don't know which should be most afraid of. I will learn to talk and speak and read. I don't know which should be the most afraid of the other, she said again, smiling. If you were less pretty, I would think should be very much afraid of you. But being as you are, and you and I both so young, I feel only that I have made your acquaintance 12 years ago, have only a right to your intimacy. At all events, it does seem as if we were destined from our earliest childhood to be friends. I wonder whether you feel as strangely drawn towards me as I do you. I never had a friend. Shall I find one now? She sighed, and her fine dark eyes gazed passionately on me. Now the truth is, I felt rather unaccountably towards the beautiful stranger. I did feel, as she said, drawn towards her. But there was also something of repulsion. In this ambiguous feeling, however, the sense of attraction immensely prevailed. She interested and won me. She was so beautiful and so indescribably engaging. And this is where someone would say they were roommates. They were roommates. I would believe some straight women talk to each other like this. Maybe even in this time period. But this only goes so far. It may be because they are really using the main character's shelteredness. And I don't think she speaks of women and friends in town. And it kind of tells me that she doesn't know how people would speak to each other in a normal friendship. Because this reads very clearly to me almost like flirting, almost. Maybe a little bit of gaslighting. Well, not gaslighting, manipulation. But I don't. But even if all this was true, and we didn't already know what was going to happen, this would not be how a normal person would speak to another one in a relation, just a pure regular friendship. I perceive now as something of languor and exhaustion stealing over her, and hasten to bid her good night. The doctor thinks, I added, you ought to have a maid set up with you tonight. One of ours is waiting. You'll find her a very useful and quiet creature. How kind of you. But I cannot sleep, I never could, with an attendant in the room. I shan't require any assistance. I shall confess my weakness. I am haunted with the terror of robbers. My house was robbed once, and 2 servants murdered. So I always lock my door. It's become a habit. You look so kind, I know you will forgive me. I see there is a key in the lock. She held me close in her pretty arms for a moment, and whispered in my ear. Good night, darling. It's very hard to part with you, but good night. Tomorrow, not early, I shall see you again. She sank back on the pillow with a sigh. Her fine eyes followed me with a fond and melancholy gaze, and she murmured again, Good night, dear friend. Young people like, and even love, on impulse. I was flattered by the evident Though as yet undiscerned fondness she showed me, I liked the confidence which she at once received me. She was determined that we should be very near friends. The next day came and we met again. I was delighted with my companion, that is to say, in many respects. Her looks lost nothing in the daylight. She was certainly the most beautiful creature I had ever seen, and the most unpleasant remembrance of the face presented in my early dream had lost the effect of the first unexpected recognition. She confessed that she had experienced a similar shock on seeing me, and precisely the same antipathy had mingled with my admiration of her. We now laughed together over our momentary horrors. Okay, let me check something really quick, chat. Okay, we'll go on just a little bit after 10. But first, I need to take a bathroom break. But we will continue reading, we will read chapter 4, actually. Get an extra chapter tonight, because it's not really... I would feel bad about closing it before we hit a 2-hour mark. So, we're gonna read just a little bit more. But first, I need to use the bathroom. Yep, my mic was off. But, according to my messages, I'm not doing Sophia Unreal tonight. So, I think I can maybe... Well, it may be safer for me to go ahead and sign off, because it is pretty late. And like I said, I just wanted a nice, cozy reading stream. And we got through 3 chapters of Carmilla, which is actually quite a bit shorter than I expected. And also, I don't mind having a nice little short stream. Sometimes you want some nice bite-sized stuff for content and just, you know, just reading. I think everyone had a nice time anyways. I know this will like sink me in the algorithm, but I don't care. I had fun. I liked reading. And plus, like, this allows people to catch up in case they want to like read along. Because I will be doing this again next Sunday. But ending early is better than ending late sometimes. Plus, chapter 4 is pretty big. And just in case like everyone does want to get together and stuff, I want to log in. And not to mention, like, I just want a nice quiet whisper to end the debut weekend. I had fun. I hope y'all had fun listening and watching. And I hope that I will see you all for the next few chapters. I plan on going a little longer next Sunday. I want to stream tomorrow, but I think I should take a break. I don't talk a lot normally, so my vocal cords are sort of fried. Well, not fried, but I feel like I feel the push. I feel the thing. I feel my vocal cords. I feel them. I'm feeling it, Mr. Krabs. But, I am going to see who's on. I think Nick is on. And that will be fun. So, let's see here. Oh, Nick is doing Gilbert Garfield. Let's see here, but who else is on? Okay, none of like my close friends are on, so I'm gonna send everyone to Nick, and we're gonna go we're gonna say hi. We're gonna type in I'm a Bat John. That's what we're gonna type. So, thank you all for being here with me tonight, and have a good day, have a good night, have a good void. Thank you for spending time with me in the shop. Good night.